Testimony in the Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson murder trial had several big moments today. Some moments helped prosecutors, others really helping defense attorneys. Our court reporter Alina Noakes is live in Warren County where the trial is unfolding. Okay, Alina, what stands out as the biggest moment in court today?
Hey, Don. Well, we've been talking a lot during this trial from the very start of this, that there was some alleged Houck family conspiracy in this alleged murder. That's what prosecutors are presenting to this jury. And there hasn't been really anything to support that yet. There's been a lot of allegations made, some witnesses loosely tying different family members like Rosemary and Nick Houck to this case. But today we heard a different name, that being Anna Whitesides. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because she has been involved in this investigation before. We've covered her prior. Now that is Brooks Houck's grandmother, and what's involved in this case is her car. Now she sold that car abruptly after Rogers' disappearance in July of 2015 to a Louisville dealership. The car was a white Buick, and this is important because it matched what two coon hunters spotted parked off a gravel drive the night of July 3rd when Rogers was last seen alive. Now they testified to that sighting today. Detectives went and located that car and found a hair in the trunk that they tested and determined it to be similar to Crystal Rogers. They found that car obviously at the dealership and were able to do that testing. It's proven to be very emotional for the Rogers family hearing that testimony in court today. It's really the first bit of physical evidence to support some kind of circumstantial case that we've heard so far. And I also want to point out one other interesting note about this. During that sale to a dealership, they have surveillance video of Nick Houck joining Anna Whitesides to make that sale. And he drove with her in that car to do that. Yet, when they tested for hairs inside that car, there was no evidence that Nick Houck was ever inside because there were no hairs found belonging to him. I bring that up because what we heard during the Steve Lawson trial and are likely to hear during this one is that Joseph Lawson and Steve Lawson's hair are not to be found in Crystal Rogers' car. But the allegations still exist that they helped to move her car onto the Bluegrass Parkway. So then you'd expect that the hairs, which we really have fall off our heads every single day, should also be in that car. So I say this to say just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, Don.
Wow. All right. Well, there was a witness who had a changing story. Who was that, and could that be a big issue in this case?
Yeah, so if you've been following this case and followed the last trial with Steve Lawson, then the name Charlie Girdley should be pretty familiar to you. He worked with Brooks Houck, actually for him as a contracted employee, and obviously worked with the Lawsons as well. Now, he has given a story in Steve Lawson's trial that was pretty similar to the one he told to the jury today. He said he was with Joseph Lawson the night of July 3rd, including when he picked up the keys to Crystal Rogers' car from Brooks Houck, and then he recalls Joseph later calling him for help moving Rogers' car once it broke down on the Bluegrass Parkway. The big issue is that that testimony is wildly inconsistent to what he told investigators with KSP in 2023. And that's a story defense attorneys claim was crafted in exchange for a deal on getting out of a probation violation. Girdley said he's made no deals and everything he testified to today is the truth. He gave 5 different versions to KSP detectives in 2023, which is why the defense claims that he was trying to find a story that somehow matched up with what KSP detectives wanted to hear and involving the people they wanted to be involved in it. But again, Charlie Girdley got on the stand today and said that everything he was telling the jury was the absolute truth. Now, this is a big conflict because it gives Girdley some major credibility issues. He, again, testified during the Steve Lawson trial, and what I believe at this point, at least, in all the testimony we heard during that trial, is that that proved to be a very big piece of that puzzle for that jury, hearing that from a witness, especially in a circumstantial case when you don't have a whole lot of physical evidence. Everything a witness says really matters. So the fact that there could be some credibility issues could present to be a problem for this jury when they're considering whether or not to believe his story.
Alina, before we let you go, I know it's a long day. Are there any questions left unanswered today that you feel prosecutors will need to bring up again eventually?
Yeah, so we actually were asking ourselves today. We heard from two witnesses this morning who were IRS investigators. Essentially, they served a search warrant at Rosemary Houck's home, and when they did that, they found some voice recorders. Now, we know from prior testimony and allegations made in this trial that Brooks Houck, Rosemary Houck, Nick Houck, members of the Houck family really, recorded statements they made to grand juries and to police during their interviews and interrogations. Brooks Houck did that during his big one on July 8th with Detective John Snow, who was the lead for Nelson County. Now, that's something we really haven't heard much of. We heard bits and pieces of some of those recordings today, but the majority that we know do exist, we have not heard from yet. I think that's going to be really key here because some of the allegations that have come out against the family allege things that they said on those recordings that implicate them in this crime, Dawn.
All right, Alina Noakes, thank you. There in the trial in Bowling Green, we appreciate your hard work in Warren County there.